We were just talking about money and the functions of money, of which there are three. Money is a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. We're going to look into those a little deeper. The first is a medium of exchange. Money is how we pay for goods and services. I will give you cash money in exchange for pretty much anything. In exchange for grapes, or in exchange for car, or in exchange for work. And that's how it works. That's just commerce in modern society. Now, there used to be other mediums of exchange I had alluded to earlier, or talked about actually, how mackerel or ramen is used in the federal penitentiary. Back in colonial times, tobacco was frequently used as a medium of exchange because a large portion of the population smoked, and tobacco was still a relative delicacy during the colonial period. So it was used in exchange for another item. Now, a medium of exchange is preferable to bartering. Bartering is exchanging goods and services for other goods and services without the use of money. The problem with barter is you have what's called a double coincidence of wants. I have to have something you want, you have to have something I want. That's the only way it'll work. If I have something you want, but you don't have anything I want or need, there's no reason for me to trade with you. It just doesn't work. But using money or mackerel or tobacco, any of those can be used because most people wanted those. They are recognized as a medium of exchange. So that's one of the functions of money. Now, there are actually two different kinds of money. There is what's called commodity money. Commodity money has a link to something tangible, like gold or silver. If you remember back in history class, the dollar was tied to gold or silver. In my office back at Fairmont, I have a silver certificate on my desk. It's a dollar bill, says silver certificate on the top, and once upon a time you could take that to the bank and say, I would like $1 worth of silver. They were both worth the same amount. You could just swap them back and forth. Before that, America was on what's called the gold standard, where it was backed by gold. It was backed by a commodity of some type. US dollars, incidentally, are used. Does anybody know what they're used for? Do you know what they're used for? Petroleum in the Middle East is predominantly traded on the dollar. It's just one of those. It's not backed by the dollar, but they are closely associated. The problem with commodity money is fluctuation in commodity value changes all the prices. I don't know if you're aware, but anytime there is a recession or depression, the value of stocks goes down, the value of gold comes up because it is tangible. It has a real value. It always has. Going all the way back to the times of the pharaohs, gold had a value. The other problem with that commodity money is if there is a new gold reserve discovered, say someone strikes it rich in Australia, well, that will create inflation because suddenly where we used to only have this amount of a commodity, now we have a greater amount. And that's going to change the prices of everything. It's hard to control. Now, fiat money is what we currently use, and that is your standard everyday greenback. It is not backed by commodity. It's backed on an agreement that we have that everyone sees it as having a value. Your folding money or your jingling money is fiat money. It's not subject to macroeconomic risk by changing commodity value, so we can change it on our own. It is subject to rapid monetary expansion and inflation. Like right now, we need more money. So what are we going to do? We're going to make more money. It's not backed by anything, so we have the freedom to do that. Fiat money does give places like the Federal Reserve, who controls our money supply, a lot more power than a commodity-based money or currency would. So Going to look at the next thing. A unit of account. A unit of account measures in which prices are quoted. A unit of account. If you're familiar with the accounting standards, you have to use the same units. You have to use dollar bills. Anytime anything's recorded in your ledger or your financial statement, it has to be in the same unit of account. It has to be in dollars. If someone started to keep track of a publicly traded corporation using dollar bills one day, Chinese yuan the next, or pounds sterling the next day, no one would have any idea what anything was worth. So we stick with dollars. It is a unit of account. It's useful. It creates a common language and a unit of measurement. We can compare profitability of a number of different organizations based on the number of dollars they have after all their expenses have been removed. It creates a consistent method of record keeping as well. We can track how our company, if we owned one, was doing year over year because we're using that same unit of account. Now, a question. Could apples be a unit of account? Oh no, that's ridiculous. Units cannot be a unit of account because they spoil. And some years, so after spoilage, you're going to have much fewer apples, so they're not going to hold their value. They're not going to be the same unit. Also, we could have a bumper crop one year, drought conditions the next where we had very little, so the available amount of apples would change pretty drastically. So that would not work. Okay, so I thought about this unit of account issue with the apples, and it frustrates me because I don't think it's a good example, but apples can be a unit of account. You can count apples. You can say whatever is worth 4 apples or 3 apples or whatever number you want to go with. Also, you can trade the apples, like I said. You could even arguably set up some kind of apple to banana exchange where you had different rates and deal with that. So apples, as a matter of fact, can be a unit of account. So there it is. Thanks. Dollar bills, however, work wonderfully for that. Store of value is a means for holding wealth. And even though we've talked about inflation and nobody's a fan of it, the US dollar actually does hold its wealth pretty well. Apples are not a good store of value, again, because if you have a number of apples and you put them aside, they're going to rot. They don't hold their value. I would not want to see an apple that you had, say, put under your mattress for a year. It's going to be just a mess. $1 you can put under your mattress, and it's going to be worth about the same amount. Remember, we have some macroeconomic things helping us keep the dollar value about the same, like menu costs. We talked about that a few chapters ago, where owners of restaurants are reluctant to change their menu costs because it takes a lot of time to print them out. So that kind of works in our favor for a store of value. Also, there are other countries like Venezuela who have runaway inflation. Iraq, rather. When Saddam took over, he was doing okay. After the Gulf War, massive inflation. They basically destroyed their monetary system because of inflation and a number of other things. Store of value, is it useful? It's more convenient to hold wealth in money rather than large amounts of goods. Yeah, that's true. Everything pretty much has a depreciable value, where after around 10 years, the US government says that no longer has value. If you've had your accounting courses, you know that depreciation costs are figured into they're figured in every year. The role of money has declined recently due to a couple of things: stocks, bonds, savings accounts. You don't need to just have a physical bunch of currency under your mattress anymore, because you could invest in stocks or bonds or even a savings account. I mean, I know right now stocks are really volatile. Bonds are fairly safe, but I imagine if those bonds are callable, most corporations are going to be calling those back so they can release them at a lower interest rate, because interest rates right now are, we can't really go lower on interest rates than we are right now. For that same reason, savings accounts, you can store your money there, but you're not going to be making anything off of interest. So yeah, you can still store the value that you had, but you're not going to gain a whole lot. So those are the three functions of money.